Some people are gonna get angry at me, but I think that most eye creams are a waste of money. I think that they are overpriced crap. And today I want to explain kind of the chemistry of cosmetics, as well as like the biochemistry of how our skin reacts with certain products and ingredients, and talk about why most eye creams are really not that effective. If you've ever watched my skincare routines, you've probably noticed that I don't use an eye cream. But a lot of people who are getting older or want to prevent wrinkles or just want to be good skincare consumers seem to purchase eye creams. But then they wonder why these things don't work, but they continue to purchase them, they continue to use them, and you might see a slight result, but then the second that that eye cream gets washed away, all of the benefits go away. What's going on? So in order to discuss this, we're gonna get into the chemistry of cosmetics, but we also have to discuss our skin. When you think about the skin under our eyes, it's actually very different from the rest of our face. Our face tends to have a little bit thicker skin, tends to have actual hair growing out of the pores, and that does happen here underneath the eye and kind of by the orbital bone on the cheekbone and even underneath the eyebrows. But the skin there is very, very thin, many millimeters thinner than the rest of the face, which means that it needs a different type of product to penetrate and absorb there. Now, when it comes to underneath the eyes, we still have hair there if you look really closely, but it's not as oily or as active as other places on the face. Now, knowing this, we need products that will penetrate. We need products that will be effective. When it comes to wrinkles, we're actually trying to remodel the skin. We're trying to induce hydration, and we're also trying to actually get the skin to produce more collagen and elastin, and our fibroblasts are responsible for that, specific cells within the skin. So we need to get products to penetrate there, to do the work gently, because this is also an orifice of our face, the eyes, and you need to be careful with that area. So why are most eye creams crap? If you actually look at the ingredients, a lot of cosmetic companies literally use exactly what they're putting in their moisturizers and just put it in the eye cream with a little bit of extra fragrance, and sometimes they throw in something like caffeine or an active. Now, the actives are actually what is doing the work, but unfortunately, when cosmetic companies throw in all of these emollients and all of these gels and all of these creams, sometimes it can be too much for the under eye area. It can be too hydrating. And if the molecules are too large, they won't actually penetrate the skin or be able to plump up those individual layers. Really overpriced crap. And then eye creams are kind of sold as a luxury item. The consumer for eye cream generally is a few years older. And because of that, cosmetic companies think that they can get away with charging more money because they assume that someone who's buying eye creams, they're assuming that this person is older, and they assume that being older means that they have a better job or more disposable income, which is, again, targeting in marketing and advertising, which I think is kind of sad. But because of that, they put a bunch of fragrances in here. Now, we've spoken about fragrances. Fragrances are kind of secret weapons. They can cause allergens and irritation in the skin over time, which is bad, but they can also act as carrier molecules, or some of them can even act as preservatives. And in that case, fragrance is really good, but it also depends on your skin and how sensitive you are. Now, while that's good in general skincare, it's not a good idea for the eyes. And the reason why is because this skin is so thin, it absorbs things, and especially if there is an essential oil or a fragrance in there, it can be very irritating. Also, if you have an aromatic alcohol or some sort of ingredient that actually releases a scent, that's getting into the air. Have you ever had like a really strong smell that kind of makes your eyes water or burn? Maybe it was like pure peppermint oil or cinnamon or something like that. It can actually make your eyes burn. And even cutting onions, right? It's a chemical reaction that happens with what's being released from the onion and the actual moisture in your eyes. And you know that that can make your eyes tear up. Well, kind of in a similar way, depending on the ingredients, eye creams can do that too. And that's just very, very irresponsible of most companies. Now, you have to remember that they have to have very small particles to penetrate and actually do work in the skin. Most cosmetic companies are not putting the money into getting the quality ingredients that you need to penetrate. These things need to be really small and they need to go really deep. The products that are best at doing that are things like retinaldehyde or like glycolic or lactic acids or malic acid. But the other problem is what those ingredients are by nature. They are acids. This is potent stuff. And if you put that by the delicate eye area, by the orifice of a face, you could cause redness, you could cause irritation. A lot of damage can be done. So we're kind of in this catch-22, where if we're actually going to get rid of wrinkles, we need some really potent ingredients, but the more potent the ingredients, the more likely they are to cause damage. Now there are PHAs, polyhydroxy acids, which, mark my words, they're not a big thing right now. I bet you within 6 months to a year, they're going to be all over the internet, because that's just how marketing works. But polyhydroxy acids are acids that are a little bit bigger, but they tend to be less irritating to the skin. And there is some science showing that they can have byproducts that actually get deeper into the skin and do good work. So potentially, seeing as these are less irritating, maybe we could see these in some eye creams. There are ingredients like caffeine, which in the past I did not like for under eye creams. Just because caffeine gets your butt up in the morning doesn't mean it's going to depuff your eyes. Caffeine can be absorbed by the skin. I like it in face creams. There might be some tightening effects. I really have to look up and study it a bit more. But it's always marketed in eye creams like, oh, it's gonna wake you up. It's like, no, honey, the coffee is gonna wake you up more. And if you just press the smooth glass of the cold iced coffee bottle to your eye, it's gonna do a lot more depuffing and a lot more anti-inflammation and a lot more under eye brightening than simply applying an overpriced moisturizer. Also, a lot of the particles are just too big and they're not actually going to nourish this area of the skin. There are like 3 different eye creams that I like. There is a retinaldehyde one from Michelle. There is a hibiscus one that is from Eminence Organics that I really like. But again, that one has some fragrances, which for some people might not be good. And again, you also have to think, are you just trying to treat puffiness? Are you trying to treat color, such as purple or brown discoloration? Are you trying to treat wrinkles? Those are 3 very different things. And of course, companies want to sell you an eye cream that's going to treat all 3. But the truth is that color, like a brown or a purple under eye, is very different than just the puffiness from an under eye, which is very different from wrinkles. And all of those things need a different treatment and a different ingredient or different actives to work on them. But of course, companies won't tell you that. They'll just sell you this cream and say, use it, it's great. Also, a lot of eye creams have dimethicone. Dimethicone is an ingredient I used to be afraid of. It wasn't until I educated myself and I put myself through school. I started learning about skin, researching chemistry, and understood that dimethicone is not as bad as I thought it was. It's actually used in medicine. It can help prevent scars. It's a very useful ingredient and it's in a lot of skincare, including acne medications. The thing I don't like about dimethicone is how companies use it. Although dimethicone is vapor permeable and it is a good ingredient, companies use it as fake smoothing or fake hydration. Dimethicone sits on top of the skin. It creates this, this barrier almost like, right? And it's vapor permeable, so certain molecules can get through, but it does really smooth over the skin. It's what's in makeup primers. So it's why when you put on a makeup primer, your acne scars look filled in, your wrinkles look diminished. It looks good, right? Well, guess what they do? They put that in eye creams. And that's great because you're like, oh, my wrinkles looked diminished. But it's not actually diminishing your wrinkles. It's smoothing them temporarily while this cream is on, but the second that you wash that off, all of those benefits from the dimethicone go away. And that is why I kind of get mad at companies that use dimethicone too much in moisturizers. It's like, okay, if you have a dimethicone base, call it a primer or call it a delivery system for an active that you might get from a prescription. But literally, it's a primer. And if I want to moisturize my skin, I want molecules that are going to penetrate, hydrate, and plump the skin, not just kind of sit on top. And for some people who do have issues with moisture and their barrier function, again, our skin is made of multiple layers, and some people have a damaged barrier. Dimethicone can be really helpful because it locks in hydration, but for most people, I still wouldn't call that a moisturizer. I would call that a barrier. You know what I mean? And I don't like how eye creams specifically are trying to sell you this dimethicone that overall is not going to help if that's the only ingredient in there. Be conscious consumers. Always remember to turn and learn so that you understand what's in your products and how they're going to work for you. We have other videos on this channel about that. You can actually watch one right here and another one right here. And if you have other questions about this, specifically the causation differences of color versus wrinkles versus puffiness, or natural remedies versus products, let me know. We're happy to do it. Always remember to be beautiful inside and out, and I will see you in the next video. Love you guys. Bye.